order. Call the meeting to order at 4:31. We are doing remote attendance per the state executive order that's listed in the agenda. So we will start with the consent agenda. So this will be, I propose a motion to approve the agenda and also the minutes from September 17th.
Samantha, can item 3 on the agenda be stricken?
Yes, and also if it can be just noted that there was a meeting for the PPPR committee that it just didn't get updated. So I will
just a question. So this is Samantha, this is a change we're making where we're adding this consent agenda item to do the things that are the type of things that are listed.
Yes.
Agenda, minutes, okay. And that'll be the future of how we do it in the future.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's how we have it's how we have been doing it.
Oh, we have been? Oh, I thought we did each one. Okay. Now maybe I'm thinking of the committee meetings.
I think it is. Yeah. The committees are doing it separately currently.
Okay. All right.
So those were the only two they were just ones that didn't get updated on the agenda that Rick and I had discussed.
So do you need a motion?
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. So we'll do roll call. So Carl, you do have to talk now because we can't see your face.
I've got Amy on speakerphone, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Carl's muted right now.
I am so sorry.
I am here, yes.
Carl's
Okay.
on.
So you said yes?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
All right. Susan?
Yes.
Samantha? Yes. And so Amy, I don't know if she heard the motion. The motion is to approve the consent agenda. I don't know if that counts since we can't hear her, but it's fine. So Rick, are there any public comments?
None.
Any written communications?
None.
Okay. And so we'll go to the city librarian's report.
So I'm going to talk about numbers because the interesting stuff is going to be handled by the division heads. And again, I'm not sure what the numbers mean right now because we obviously have nothing to judge it against. Overall circulation is down 18% from September of 2019, which would seem disastrous if it weren't for the fact that the foot traffic is way down, and it's all due to the pandemic that we're experiencing, of course. Interestingly, if you look at the 12-month trend, it's down much more, but that's because we were closed entirely for 3 months. Interlibrary loans are down even more, down 40% overall transactions. We're looking at new patron registrations down by 49%, number of visitors down by 56%. What the good news on visitors is we're finally seeing the lobby counter and the security gates reflect something that makes sense. So we're seeing more people come through the lobby than the security gates, which makes sense because some people don't go any further. But I don't know what to make of this because we're in uncharted waters. I'm not even sure that reporting the numbers to you helps in any way, shape, or form. But we did get some interesting numbers. Searches in the catalog up 16%. Number of items withdrawn from the collections up 141%. Well, that's kind of important because it shows what are we focusing on now that we're not having programs and we're not having as many people through the door, that collection management piece. So that is kind of important to note. What else am I looking at here? I wanted to point out. We're finally starting to see our website numbers go down a little bit. There was, about this time last year, it was just a huge increase. And now there's a slight, like page views is down 3%. Programming, you're going to see those overall numbers change a lot from what I reported to you guys last month and the month before, because we're it's, you know, the whole virtual programming world is new to not only us, but to the state to whom we report. And we have changed the way that we're measuring attendance. And the initial numbers that we reported a couple months ago were much higher than what is now the official guidelines for how to report it. So you'll see on those, on the projection, that's a little lower than I was projecting last month. But I don't know, what kind of, I mean, in the next few months, what kind of numbers would be interesting to you guys to even hear about? And what do we think would be indicative of something? I don't even know. There's just nothing to measure it against. I mean, typically in September, we don't measure it against August because we know there are predictable cycles in the year. We measure it against last September because that's the real benchmark. You know, same month in a year tends to have a lot more in common than the previous month. I don't know what to compare it to now. So I'm open to suggestion is what I'm driving at.
I think, I mean, for me, I feel like comparing it to last year is actually kind of interesting. I mean, to see where we were. So like month on month, or, you know, year on year, I guess. And also foot traffic in general, just to see if we're improving even. I mean, I know the fluctuations from last year, you know, last year to this year, but even last month to this month might be a little bit interesting to see if it's increasing, you know, just in general. I don't know that if anybody else has any thoughts, but I do like hearing about the programs that we're doing and then the new services that, you know, and what people are actually accessing. So if
You'd like to hear more specifics about which resources are, so I could tell you that, and Alyssa could probably comment a little more on, but that we had a huge increase in one of our databases that really kind of threw the electronic use numbers off quite a bit. I don't know whether that's the right way to put it, but if you look, our overall collection use in September of 2020 was actually 13% higher than in September of 2019.
yeah,
Because of this number right here.
yeah,
10,000 successful retrievals of electronic information. That's from databases and such. So rather than the books that the electronic books that you borrow for a fixed amount of time, this, you know, database, and I can't remember which database it was, but there was one that went up just tremendously.
It was World Book. And historically, right about the same time of the year, it does go through the roof. It did last year, and I believe the year before, all in that September, October range.
well, and isn't that for kids, or is it for both adults and kids? Because maybe,
But this is comparing September to September. So
Right.
but they were in school last year, so maybe they didn't need it.
Exactly, and that's what is that's the real possibility. And all I know is that made our collection use actually go up a little bit. So,
Well, and
You know,
sorry.
no, I just was going to ask a question of, and perhaps Alyssa as well. Yeah, okay, you know, in this time, I mean, you know, like the trends, the statistics, the information, it doesn't mean a lot because, you know, we're kind of in unprecedented times or uncharted territory. You know, people have changed behaviors and so on. So it's, you know, maybe there's not a lot to learn from it, but I guess I'd ask the question of Rick and Alyssa, is there anything you guys see in running the library of the data you see that is alarming to you, that should be of concern? Or is it just, you know, hunker down, wait, and let's get through this and then see what happens?
That's where I am, Greg. I think we have to wait and see what happens. If we, you know, if let's say 6 months from now we're in a sort of all clear territory and we're still seeing these numbers, then we've got some hard thinking to do. But seeing anything that's because I don't have anything to compare it to, really. I mean,
Yeah.
If I said, hey, you know, in the 1918 epidemic, we had it. This is what the number. I mean, that wouldn't be comparable anyway. So because it's, you know, 100 years later. So.
But of course, our patrons aren't the only ones who are doing anything different. We're doing different things. Normally, we are programming and we're doing lots of things that bring people in, and then they're going to check out more because they're visiting. And now we're saying it's better to stay home. We can't have big crowds. And so instead of programming, we're focusing on more virtual or reading the collection, which you pointed out, we've taken out more.
Okay.
But also we have asked our person who's remotely working to concentrate instead on social media output being about programs and bringing people into the library, but focusing on the resources that they can access 24/7 from home. And so if somebody just happens to see that and they know their kid has a project and they wouldn't have thought of it before, but maybe now they did, I would hope that we have more people using our electronic resources now than before, and that we would continue. Not that I'm expecting high numbers, but that they'll be used regularly.
And it's been an upward trend anyway, and then COVID is even more of an upward trend, but that was a crazy upward trend.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we saw sort of spike a little bit, which was surprising because it's been on a steady downward trend, is magazines. I think there's probably a couple of reasons for that because it's slowing down a little bit now. I think people missed 3 months of magazines, you know, and they came in, they got them all. Oh, I'll get the last 3 months because I missed the last 3 months. But the other thing is, there's no seating. You can't sit down and look at the magazine. If you want to read it, you got to check it out. So I think those are probably what's driving that. But that was interesting because it looked like it was on an irreversible downward trend to me.
I mean, I still read magazines. It's weird. I mean, so I don't necessarily pick them up at the library though. So yeah, I mean, I know you don't necessarily maybe want to add more to this, you know, spreadsheet, but even just highlighting like some, you know, those databases that are, you know, databases or resources that are, you know, being used, and maybe we can.
And that work's already done. I mean, Alyssa reports it to me, and I winnow it down to its essence and give it to you guys. I mean, so Alyssa reports it to me granularly. So
yeah.
which databases are accounting for how much use and that sort of thing. So
it's just more, I guess, for like our advocacy, like if we're talking to our friends and family, you know, and we hear about something like,
right.
You know, we were talking about the newspaper link in the finance and properties meeting yesterday. So, you know, that something we might not have known that we might be able to share. So,
but perhaps another question is, I mean, you know, again, Rick and Alyssa and others, okay, I guess we have no reason to believe that the library is not delivering in these times the services that are requested of patrons. Correct?
I think that's correct. And I talked to other directors in the area a lot, and they're seeing similar trends and similar numbers. So that would be the other thing that would alarm me. If everybody else was back to normal and we weren't, that would be kind of alarming too.
But nobody's coming to you guys. No patrons are coming to you guys and complaining that they can't get this service or they can't get that service.
I would say if there was anything, and it's not necessarily complaint, we do have patrons that want to have on-site programming, and especially parents with kids. They want to be able to bring the kids in and sit down at a computer or play with toys, and it's just not safe yet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, I think we're, we're doing whatever we can here. So, but is that anything else? Any other comments? All right, then we will move on to Robert. You're up. You're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Basically, Rick covered a lot of what the CERC did last month. We don't have a lot of individual tasks that people do working on programs. However, there were some notable things that happened. Jennifer Pride, she was actually invited to the ILA. She entered a poster in the contest. So she's moving on in that, and there'll be up-to-date information about that. Jennifer Pride is one of our clerks that works at the front line, and she does a lot of the posters that you see out front when you come up about the new books. And she was, she came to me one day and she said, hey, I want to be involved. And she's been working with the PRS staff, and they've been helping her along and helping her with the publisher and the different things to get the posters out there. So she's really excited about that. We had a new clerk, Shakira Powell, and she's loving that position. She's been doing great as a clerk. We're glad for her. She's can help cover also some of the Saturdays. We've been talking about, last couple of minutes, we've been talking about the numbers, and just to add to what's been said, even though last month it looks like we were down with the visitors, 800 to like 8,000 visitors or something like that. Comparatively, we still had a lot of people coming in and checking out compared to 2019. So the amount of people that came in and actually checked out at the counter was like only down like 27%. So they're still coming into the building and checking out materials. And it's the same pretty much with the adults. It's like 27% less than it was the following year. So we still have a significant amount of people coming in, checking out the materials. We also had some of the page tests. This time we have a page opening that we're looking to the field. So we had the written test over at the city this week. I haven't had any of the results yet. We had a couple of meetings with Share because of the pandemic. We've had to quarantine materials. So some of you guys have been getting notices if you dropped your books off and they didn't get checked in right away. So we had some meetings and we got some of that modified. And so it should work so the patrons aren't getting the overdue notices now. So that should make some people happy. We also had a meeting with the the high school, and we're working with them. They want to get their seniors, their freshmen coming in. They want to get those guys some e-cards. So hopefully we'll get started with those guys so the schools can keep working with e-cards and they'll be able to check out library materials. So we're pretty happy about that. We're still reviewing the workflows up in admin with the help from the city. We have, we pretty much worked through the payroll part of it. That's working out pretty well. Right now we're working with the invoices and the purchase orders parts of it.
Awesome. I did actually finally I got Shakira on Tuesday when I was there.
Good.
So
Hey, can I add a little something about
I don't think
Jennifer's?
she knew I was, but
Can I add something, Samantha, about Jennifer's poster session?
Yeah.
I just want to, so poster sessions at the ILA conference, what they are is you have a poster on a subject in the library world or at your library, and you stand there and you take questions. It's basically an impromptu program. They're done by librarians, and Jennifer is a library clerk, and she got this accepted, and that's a real feather in her cap, and really impressive that she got this accepted. I'm really, really proud of her. So, and I know Robert is too. I just wanted to emphasize that it really is, that's kind of a big deal.
that's awesome. I'll have to tell her when I see her. Okay. Anything else?
Hey, just on that, does she get, how does she get recognized for this effort, like internally within the library. So that, you know, kind of other people know what a good thing she did. And
I send out every Friday. I send out an email to the whole staff, and I talked about it in last Friday's email, and that's really about it. I mean, it'd be nice if there was some other way we could make a big deal out of it. But because it is kind of important, and it's nice to see our union staff get recognized like this. This is really cool. This is the only library association telling a library clerk this is impressive work. It's about our social work program.
Yeah.
And
You know, we don't have Allison Petty anymore, unfortunately, but you know, attending the board meetings. But is it something like you could send something to the Herald Review and they could put some little piece in the paper or something? I mean, not some big
It's
article.
not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
I just want to say she wasn't the first union staff to do something at ILA, because Susan Bishop,
That's
as a
true.
library
That's
assistant, did a program in Peoria. No,
Yep.
And she did
That's true.
programming before for Ridiculous.
Yeah. And we do plan to make a big deal out of it, Greg. I mean, everyone,
Okay.
Turk knows that she's, you know, we're all happy for her and all of that. We're just, you know, everyone's patting her on the back. But yeah, we plan to make a big deal out of it. But I'm glad you mentioned the paper. That's another good idea.
Yeah, and then that's it. I mean, you know, the promotion within the library encourages other people within the library to behave that way and excel. But you know, just the notoriety, maybe even within the community, would be a good thing too.
Well, and they're looking for stories about
Yeah.
community too. So
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. That's a great idea. Can you send it to us? Like, can we see what what it looks like? Or I don't know how that works.
Yeah, we could do a press release, or we could just call the right person and say, hey, here's something. Do you think there's a story there? So
Yeah. I mean, they have even a website that you can like submit your story ideas to as well. So, all right, awesome, great. All right, Becky, you are up.
One thing before I start, Rick, are we going to display her poster? I think we should.
I agree. I hadn't thought,
Yeah.
but yeah, we definitely should.
Yeah.
Should have been a no-brainer.
Okay.
Yeah, I just if you can even just send it out to the different boards and just I think that people would be cool, like very excited for her, and they probably see her all the time at Cirque. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, got a couple of things to mention. First and foremost, since the library is opening Saturdays on the 24th, the local history room will stay closed officially, but will be open by appointment only. So you can make an appointment, come see us, and we would like 24 to 48 hours notice so we can get somebody scheduled to be in there. More than likely it'll be me or Leanne, not any of the volunteers. So we've decided to keep no volunteers on Saturdays, mainly because I can't get my volunteers to do it right now. They're still a little worried and they're not interested in coming in on Saturdays right now. So by appointment only. And we will stay at 10 to 2 for now. But there's some good stuff. On the 8th of this month, Leanne and I went to dentist school and did a presentation at there for their teachers in their new library. They moved out of their old library back into their old library. So they're into their little thing. And give about a 30 to 40 minute presentation on the local history room and what we offer in here. And then Leanne did good reads so that the teachers, if they need something calming to read or interesting to read to get away from what they're doing, they have something they can go to. Because this was an in-service that was more dedicated to the teachers and their mental health than to what are we doing for the students. The other thing is later this month, either the 27th or the 29th, Leanne and I will be giving a talk to a Millikan University class that is an education class that's geared towards elementary social studies. So it's basically talking about how you can use primary sources and how a history room in a library can work for you, for your students and whatnot. when they get into that field. Because they can't come here for a tour, there's 18 of them. We are actually filming videos right now. We'll actually finish filming. And Matt and Chris have been very nice to try and edit them for me. And those will go to the professor, who is Anne Marie Hillier, and then she will disseminate them out to her class so they can see them. And then Leanne and I will have a lovely conversation, probably about an hour to hour and a half with them on a Tuesday or a Thursday at the end of the month. It depends on whether or not their schedule switches from Tuesdays to Thursdays. Apparently Milliken is switching their schedules. And then next month on the 17th, Gary Geisler is going to do a program for the library, for local history department on Dennis School. And he's doing the history of Dennis School, the lore behind it and whatnot. Oh gosh, I forget what it's called, but it's something to do. Dennis School ain't going nowhere, I think is what it's called.
Did he make a film for this, Becky?
He did not make a film for this. He is going to do a live presentation.
Okay, he makes some pretty interesting films. So if you ever get a chance to catch one of Gary's films on sometimes local stuff, sometimes not so local, but they're really good. He does a great job.
I went to Dennis, so that is very interesting to me.
So that's what I've got for you guys right now.
Awesome.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Alyssa.
So I wasn't here last month because I was actually on vacation, and in the 2 months since last I met with you guys, we hired 2 part-time library assistants, which was a huge deal. We haven't had the opportunity to train 2 people at the same time in 15 years, let alone in the children's department, as it were. So of course we don't have a children's or an adult department anymore. We have PRS, and we needed 1 part-time library assistant in the children's area to take care of the vacancy left by Amanda Young, who was promoted to librarian. But we had the opportunity to hire 2, ideally 1 upstairs and 1 downstairs. But what we've decided to do is treat them as PRS, and we decided to train them in both places. So for the first time ever, we took 2 people and we trained them upstairs for a month, and then we moved them and trained them downstairs for a month and kind of waited to see how it went. And they have both completed the training successfully. They can move between upstairs and downstairs. We've had some illness, and due to lack in staffing, I've been able to say, would you please go here? And they did. And they love both places. What's very interesting about this is, okay, I've been here for 17 years. I was in the children's department for 10 and a half as a part-time, one of 4 part-time people who, when the opportunity came to take a full-time position downstairs, we all refused. In fact, I was the first to defect. Thank you, Robert, for the offer. It was the best move I could have had, loved it. But again, it took a bit for us to think about moving upstairs and downstairs. We cross-trained everybody upstairs to work downstairs, half of the staff downstairs to work upstairs. And now we have people who are effectively working both places. This is important because when we have our first retiree or resignation as a library assistant full-time, we actually have people waiting in the wings. And these people have the opportunity to stay upstairs or move downstairs. And I think it's very interesting that for the first time, and this is prior to Rick being here, this wouldn't have happened, but we have people who would be willing to take either. I think that's huge, that the culture that we're creating now is enabling us to not think of ourselves as in the silos. I want to stay here. I want to stay there. This is where I belong. This is what I like. No, we're having an environment where people are willing. We've had adult librarians working upstairs for a while now, and now we have children's dedicated staff who are willing to go downstairs when needed. And we have 2 part-time people that when they get the opportunity to go full-time, they're ready. So I just think that's pretty amazing. So thank you everybody who was instrumental to just enabling us to move like that. It's very fulfilling. That's all I got today. That's more than enough.
Great, thank you. All right, Matt, you are up.
Well, hello, everyone. The big project for Chris and I purchased some form software for our intranet. So we're trying to get all of our internal staff forms online and easier to use and easier to route around to the appropriate staff. We've added more cameras to our security system here. So we've got a total of about 26 cameras in the building now, one outside. And I mean, we're just keeping computers running and up and updated and everything. And our help calls are up 24% over last year. So they've been going up for the last couple months, which is good or bad, however you look at it. And that's about it for me.
I think the increase in help calls is a good thing. It's a function of having somebody here covering more hours, and that's, you know, that's a positive thing. It shows me that there was a real need for hiring Chris.
Yes.
Okay.
That's great. All right. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to the committee reports. So we did have a PPPR committee last week. And so we did discuss the a patron behavior patron ban policy. It was tabled. So we will be working on that at the next committee meeting, and then our intention is to present something at the next board meeting. So does anybody have any questions on that? All right. So then we will move on to the credit card policy. It was recommended that we accept the policy as presented. So I would need a motion to do that, and we can discuss.
I'll move. I'll move.
Second.
All right. So any discussion on this? Hopefully you guys have had a chance to review it. There were no changes as far as I remember.
Hey, just I have a question. You know, since the library is, you know, kind of within the within the financial aspect of the city, you know, Rick, these credit cards, I mean, we haven't discussed this, you know, from a library city point of view, but, you know, where previously we issued you a city credit card, how does this fit into that?
This is the policy we developed when that was issued. We have some in-store cards also for
Okay.
Sam's and Barnes and Noble. I believe that's it. This was developed to guide the use of that.
Okay.
That 3 years ago, to guide the use of that credit card that you.
Okay. So this is you know, within the overall city credit card environment, you know, you have you have a Regions Bank credit card in your name for use on library matters as you determine. What this is pertaining to is that, plus what other cards the library will secure for businesses around town.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Works. And it's this has been in use for a few years. Something in place that guided how, you know, what are the appropriate circumstances under which we use it, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of times it's easier to use the credit card, but we still ask for an invoice or a PO. If you invoice us, we still go by invoice.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any issues with it, Greg?
No issue.
Amy? Okay. So then we will do roll call vote. I'll go back to mine. So we'll start with Carl.
Aye.
All right, Greg?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Susan? Are you on mute?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, Susan, did you say yes? Sorry. And Samantha, yes. All right, the credit card policy has been passed. So the next item is just a quick discussion. Susan is going to be heading up the committee to create a procedure and also the form to evaluate Rick. It hasn't been standardized since he's been here. So we are currently working on that. We did just discuss that a little bit. Susan, do you have anything else?
No, except I was going to ask Michael to assist me in this. I've got to tie up a few things that I'm working on with Beautify Decatur and stuff, and then gonna get into it. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have something that we can look at. So
Sounds great. All right, and then Rick, did you want to talk about the personnel update?
Sorry. Yeah, and we've covered most of it. Shakira Powell was promoted. We're going to backfill the position that she vacated. And then tomorrow I'm going to make a couple decisions on administrative staffing. You and I talked about that a little bit offline earlier, and some things in CERC. At the end of the day, we're gonna still be as staffed as we need, but we're gonna save some money, and I'll let you guys know about those when the decisions have been made. But we have, as Robert mentioned, we have advertised. I think was testing yesterday for the halftime page position.
I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, it was this week. Yeah, and so we'll have somebody in that slot, within a couple of weeks.
Okay. So Robert, did you want to head up the EDI discussion?
Yes.
Sorry.
Sure. Basically, I just wanted to share with the board that we met with Deetta Jones and Associates, a representative from Deetta Jones and Associates, and they walked us through the process of how they work with the Evanston Public Library. And we, those who attended the Zoom meeting, he fielded some of our questions about how they got started, and so what we're waiting on is basically a breakdown of charges if they were to come in. Now, we also, I'd ask the diversity committee to submit consultants or names of consultants if they knew someone who they thought would work. So at some point we could send out a request for information for those groups. So I think I only have maybe one or two that that answered, that they had someone that was interested. But we also, the diversity group, I asked everyone to submit a bio, which I'm going to combine. Thank you, Samantha, for your bio and Carol. So it's a little small bios, just sort of let the board know who's all on the committee and let them know where they're from, because we have some people out in the community who volunteered too. And so I like for the board to know who they are and who's working with us. And at some point, we hope after we get offers, we start narrowing it down. We can have whoever looks favorable, or see if they could come and do maybe some sort of presentation or question and answer with the board, or at least with director. We'll see how that works, and before we go forward with that. So I think we're making pretty good progress. I like the meeting with Jerome Alford, was his name, from Deetta. He had a lot of good answers to some of our questions about how to get started, and how you can actually take one part of it. You can actually take if you wanted to do an environmental study, studying how your environment is, where you are, you could do that. You can also, include a consultant package. So they do the whole full deal, but they allow you to take pieces of it. So right now, that's where we're at. We're looking at consultants, and we're looking at narrowing it down, and at some point we'll be sending an RFI out and going from there.
Okay. That is awesome. I'm sorry I couldn't make the meeting. I know it's
That's okay.
so, okay. Any questions for Robert? All right, so then we move on to our next action item, which is the patron ban appeal from last month. We have the recommended motion from the PPPR committee was that we uphold the 1-year ban, but then add an additional, currently she's receiving curbside services. And so there would be an additional 30-day suspension of those services. So that is the proposal. So would somebody like to make a motion and then we can discuss?
So just a question, is that's the proposal of the personnel committee?
Yes, but we do not have to do that. So someone can make a different motion if they choose.
Okay, but so what is the personnel committee proposing? Personnel committee's reviewed all this.
Yes.
And they've made their determination, and they're making this recommendation to the board. And the recommendation of the board is?
It is 1 year, 1 year ban from the library premises,
Okay.
and then a 30-day ban of curbside services.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks, Samantha.
Yes. Susan, did you want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion. Yeah.
Okay. And did somebody want to second it?
Second.
All right, Carl. All right. So discussion.
So I'm just curious about the additional 30-day ban for curbside. So was there another incident, or what was the committee's thinking about that?
Rick, do you want to take this or?
Sure, there
Yeah,
were a few, she's tried to enter the library several times since the ban. She's also, she left a voicemail on my phone that was, she was shouting and using, again, vulgar language and racial epithets in regards to so I think that was the additional stuff.
In light of the fact that there is no policy yet, I think the committee felt like we needed to support the city librarian in his call for a year. We felt that was valid. And so we also felt, most of the committee members felt that there needed to be, in light of the fact that there was no remorse shown and she was given a chance to apologize, and that did not happen. She came into the board meeting, pretty much trying to defend her position and just saying, oh, that's kind of the way I am, and so there were members of the committee, most of us, I believe, felt that there needed to be a little bit more punitive, that there needed to be a disallowance of library use for a period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to make a comment that I trust the members of the board who serve on that committee. I trust their review and the recommendation they make, and that I will vote to support their recommendation.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other discussion then? Okay. Then, so we will do a roll call vote. So we'll start. Carl, you're at the top of my list.
Love you, Sam. I guess I'll have to vote aye. Yes.
Okay. Greg?
Yes.
All right. Amy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And Samantha, yes. That is, yeah. All right.
Can I just say it wasn't an easy decision. There was a lot of discussion about it.
It is, yeah, it is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Now we will move on to the volunteer policy. The recommended motion from the PPPR committee was to approve the volunteer policy with the changes that Rick is going to show up on the screen. And so if you guys take a look at that and then make that motion. So basically it's just the background check for volunteers, but that was the main thing that was in question. The volunteer policy, the rest of it has already been vetted and reviewed by this board, and this was the only thing that was still in question. So anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move that we accept it as presented.
All right. We need a second.
Second.
All right, Carl. All right, any discussion on the additional language on the background checks? It was just mainly to help protect our patrons and our staff, so.
What was the decision on that language?
He threw it up there on the.
I'll put it up on the screen again.
Apologies, I had it.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, you're okay. It just says all volunteers who begin service after October 16th, 2020 which is tomorrow, will agree to undergo a background check prior to beginning their duties at the library. All volunteers who began service prior to that date will agree to undergo a background check no later than December 31st, 2020. Any volunteer unwilling to undergo a background check will no longer be eligible to serve the library in that capacity. Any volunteer or volunteer applicant who's found to be a convicted sex offender or to have been convicted of a violent crime in the last 5 years will not be eligible to serve in the library in that capacity.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
I don't know if you needed me to read it, but
I saw it afterwards. I appreciate it. I'm sure the viewers do as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. So any further discussion? All right, then we'll do roll call. Carl?
Aye.
Greg?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Samantha, yes. Okay, so Amy, you want to take it over?
Yeah, I'll be brief. We had a meeting yesterday, and first, let me apologize for not being on Zoom at the beginning. I have a whole list of swear words to use with my internet service provider. We reviewed the check register, discussed some items, and the Finance Committee recommends the approval of the full board. It was all routine. Rick, you might say something about that big database expenditure that we made.
Yeah, it was a news bank, and that is for the database called, oh gosh, what is it called now? Hang on.
American newspapers or something.
Yeah, America's newspapers. It gives us access to over 2,000 newspapers. That's our annual cost.
So the Finance Committee recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the check register for September.
I second that.
All right, so Carl?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Amy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And Samantha, yes. Okay.
Then we also reviewed, just as an information item, Rick's analysis both of spending year to date and his projection for the year. It looks like everything is on track. We may do slightly better than budget on both the revenue and expense side. So that was very good news. And, you know, we discussed specific items, but the bottom line is that we're looking at doing slightly better than budget at this point at 75% of the year. We then,
Sorry, Rick, you may want to check the packet that was sent out and make sure that it has your updated version of this. because on mine it has blank on the salaries.
Oh,
Just for
Yeah, and I talked about that yesterday. For some reason, when I'm converting spreadsheets to PDFs, sometimes some of those cells are coming up. So I just need to keep a better eye on that, but I fixed it on what I just showed you guys.
Yeah, I saw it was fixed on there.
We are not predicting a $2 million surplus. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Well, and even, I mean, this is a projection, so,
Right.
Yeah, no, and I just wanted to let you know that like it was just different on the one, so just updating the packet on the internet.
Yeah. Then we also looked at Rick's draft of the budget. Greg provided some additional information about the city's schedule. So we now are going to be able to take action on the budget in November, which gives Rick time to go back and fine tune some of the numbers. But we're looking at a situation that I believe is going to look very much like the budget looks for this year. But we will review that in detail again at the November finance meeting and then ask for your approval in November, which puts us on track for when we deliver it to City Council.
And Robert and I got excited about that today because we have some good ideas for data analysis that might help us fine tune our projections. So
that's great. That's great, and appreciate Greg working with us on the schedule. So you've got time to do that. And then the other thing that we discussed, and maybe Greg can talk about it again, is the landscaping of the parking lot.
They haven't watered it enough. And Mother Nature hasn't cooperated. It's not been as wet in October as we normally get. But I talked to Public Works today, and I gave them instruction just to water the heck out of the north and south grassy areas. The king side, is only do that as an aftermatter. Let's hope that, we'll get, the more water we get there will allow, the seeds to sprout, and we'll get some base before we get to the cold winter. So let's evaluate it over the next days, and we'll see what's happening. But that's what I can update you from yesterday.
Okay, well, but you did also say that you're still retaining money.
Yeah. That's still in play. Yeah.
That this is gets closer to what we were imagining it to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for me.
The only other thing we did mention that their library's having a vote by mail event that you can turn in your ballot on the 24th. It's this Saturday. So for Carl and Susan who weren't there. All right. So
24th, correct?
The 24th, yeah.
Yes, indeed. I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure what I can say here.
Saturday morning, and the county clerk will have both election judges and security available, so that it should be, a good event.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm gonna turn my vote in that day. My ballot there. Friends of the library. Rick.
Did a pretty brief meeting last week, and they decided to continue to suspend their second Saturday book sales, but they're building up a lot of stock. And anyway, this probably isn't the forum to talk about that. They're building up a lot of stock, though. And, they approved the two asks for about $400, and it was business as usual. They are looking to hire a finance person, a bookkeeper. Essentially, it's simply a $200 stipend a month. It's nothing. It's more or less a volunteer position. But they had somebody that really made it easier. She set up a whole procedures manual. But she and her husband are relocating, so they're looking for somebody new in that slot.
Okay. So IHLS.
Yeah, I did want to mention that I didn't get the Share Executive Council report, but because that person has been out for a few days, Bill. But the CERC committee did vote to not pass auto renewals. So that I think will come up again. That's my prediction. But right now there won't be auto renewals coming up.
Okay. As far as I know, there's no other old business. And with new business, there's no update on any board openings. So the last thing, it's just the serving our public. Oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Just under new business, obviously Macon County's COVID numbers are not good. And I just want to note that the ones I saw, I believe in the article about the mayor being positive were 10%, which is way beyond what we would like it to be.
I can tell you with staff, we've stepped things up quite a bit here. We're, I'll admit we weren't doing the twice a day interviews, but we now are. And we're being a little more proactive about if we see somebody displaying symptoms about, I thought the mayor's comments were very telling. She said hard telling how long she's had it because she thought it was fall allergies. So, and that's the kind of thing we're hearing. And now if we're hearing that, it's sorry, we're not taking any chances. So I don't think we've had more than a few days without somebody quarantined. So far, we've had no positive results, but we've been very fortunate. So.
That is very good.
Could I ask here, and you can't vote on it because it's not on the agenda, but you guys had directed us to when we reopened to not ask folks to mask up, to offer folks masks, but to not ask people to leave if they're not wearing a mask. And at the time, the concern was, there are a lot of high-profile news stories about violence, confrontations when that happens. I think we have a high rate of compliance, patrons, but I just want to know if the board still, just a kind of as a discussion item, you can't vote, but is that still the feeling of the board?
I support what our staff feels comfortable with. I mean, mainly because of like what you're saying. But I also support masks and all for, everyone should be wearing a mask at this point. It's not, and it should be worn properly, not
down here. That does not count.
We have a gentleman who's here daily, for instance, and it's easy to point these out. And what you don't see is that probably something like 99 out of 100 people through the door every day are wearing masks. But we have a gentleman who's here every single day, and he comes in with a mask on. And as soon as he sits down at the computer, it comes off. He's prompted, but that's the way he's going to do it. And, it does concern staff and probably the other patrons. So I don't know.
Well, Rick, can you, as a public entity, and I'm not clear what the answer to this is, but can you demand that people coming into the library, can we mandate that they wear masks while they're in the library?
Well, the governor already has.
Well, then we should do that.
Yeah,
and we should enforce that.
Yeah, we've got signs everywhere. We have masks. In our approaches, if we see somebody without a mask, we say, hey, you may have forgotten your mask, but just in case, we've got one right here. Most people are just fine with it, but we do have We do have some people that that just, you know, and we've got a couple people who are, you know, aren't here as much as the guy I'm referring to, but who are, you know, not masking as a statement. So,
But we should, if we have the, I mean, my opinion is that if we have the wherewithal to do that, we should mandate mask requirements, and we should evict anyone who's not in compliance.
I think the concern is the staff is asking the staff to do that.
Yes.
So then how do we go about it? Do we need to get a security officer there to do it for us?
I don't know. Is there anyone there that feels comfortable approaching people? It's like, I mean, in that specific gentleman.
can I suggest that we've got, I mean, this is punting a couple weeks, but I just wanted to get I wanted to take you guys' temperature essentially on this. And can I suggest we put it in front of the PPPR committee in November? I'm assuming we're still going to be under a mask order in November. And in the meantime, what I can do is straw poll the staff and see how they feel about it.
That is what I'm more concerned about. I mean, I absolutely think all our patrons, I mean, they shouldn't be in the library without a mask. It's not safe at this point to do that, even if you're 6 feet away from people.
Yes.
Like, coming out with things that are, you know, it's aerosol, it doesn't, you know,
Yes.
things don't work, you know, so I do have concerns about how the staff feels about it. And if there's, you know, somebody that feels okay, or, you know, maybe they know that that particular patron, or, you know.
And in our internal discussions, I think that the only concern is that, you know, that we kind of discussed in the division heads was we need to make sure that we are consistent and equitable in our application of this.
Yep. Okay. All right. So the last thing, I sent out an email about the Serving Our Public 4.0. I've only gotten responses from a couple of people. And so I do need a date. We're looking at November 18th to have this review.
So Samantha, so what's your deadline? When do you need something back from us, me?
So basically we would have the committee meet, like we would have a special meeting and you would have to have it done by then. So
Okay.
we would just go through each chapter. It's just like any of the other checklists, and we would just kind of go down the checklist.
Yeah. Well, give me a date.
The 18th, November
Okay,
18th.
okay. All right, perfect. All right.
4:30, Samantha, again, 4:30
Yes.
or? Okay.
It'd be 4:30. I do have a hard stop at 6 though. So, and I know Susan, I think you said you had a hard
I
stop.
do too.
And hopefully by then the grant application, we can get
I gotta go, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
to you, and we can find out more specifically what they're looking for us to do. Right now, what we understand is they just want us to review it, but again, it hasn't been published. We've been told that verbally.
Yep. Any questions on that? It's just, so you're doing the research, you're presenting, you know, you can ask anybody at the library, Rick can help guide, and that's the basic. So we'll shoot for November 18th and then we'll be done with that. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Okay, like Carl.
Aye.
Let's see, Greg,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and me, yes. Okay, bye guys.
All right.